Hello everyone and welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins led by an Orc War Boss atop his mighty Wyvern and the Tomb Kings who are going to be led by DJ Kotep. And guys, we will find out in just a moment if he will indeed be on his DJ booth. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So in the front line, I do have a very heavy core of Black Orcs, and like I've said, in a multitude of Greenskin vs Tomb Kings casts, these guys in my opinion are a must in the front line. They're immune to psychology, so Tomb Scorpions, Cambrian War Sphinxes, Necro Sphinxes aren't really going to just buckle your front line like they can against some of the other Greenskin frontline compositions. And on top of that, they have really solid armor-piercing damage, so if they're fighting against those heavily armored constructs, they're going to be able to actually put a dent in them, unlike Orc Boys or Savage Orcs or things like that. So in total, we have 3 of those in the front line. In the secondary line, we're trying something a little bit different. So typically, I go with the Rusty Airs and then maybe like 1 or 2 Goblins to support and bring down some of those constructs. But this time I wanted to take a similar approach to what I usually do against the Vampire Counts. I was going to see, how are these Savage Orc Air Boys going to do? On paper, I think their missile damage is pretty similar, 21 and 20 on these guys, so a little bit more, but obviously they're, let's see what their AP values are. I haven't used these guys in a long time, so 6 armor piercing damage, that's actually not bad at all. I think most armor piercing damage or missile units for like high elves and things like that, they have like 3 or 4 AP. So that's actually something that's pretty good to know. So definitely a very useful discovery here in this cast. So we do have a couple Savage Orc Air Boys, and just in case you get Skeletons or Carrion, for example, these guys hit like trucks in melee. They have 38 weapon strength, so in their melee attack is 32 with only 8 melee defense. So they are going to take some damage on any trades they make, even with Skeletons or low-tier chaff units, but I'm hoping that they can fend off Carrion and other harass unit pretty well. On top of that, we do have a Goblin Big Boss here in support, 1 group of Nasty Skulkers in the back, a Night Goblin Shaman with the Sneaky Stabbin' and Itchy Nuisance, 1 group of Trolls, which are a very good counter against Ushapti. Typically, I like to bring 2 in this matchup. They're really good for shutting down Tomb Scorpions as well. They have high mass, they can surround the constructs, and usually hit very hard with 100 weapon strength with, how much of that being AP? Looks like 70, wow. It's pretty substantial. My apologies, guys. I'm still afflicted by Nurgle, so I'm getting over a bit of a cold. So if I sound a little bit different or my voice cracks, then, then you guys know why. Over here, we do also have an Orc Board Chariot. So this is another thing. I wanted to experiment with this in this match. Although this might not have been the place to do it because I am facing off against Scribble, who's a very good tournament player. And you can see he has Ushapti Great Bows and Tomb Scorpion, so he's just straight to business here. But I think that the Orc Board Chariot might be a pretty good tool at maybe like clearing out Tomb Guards and Skeleton Archers and Skeleton Spears if you're able to catch them while they're not braced. So I'm pretty excited to see how the Orc Board Chariot does this game. For leadership, like I said, we're going to be trying the Orc War Boss on his Wyvern, and you know what? We'll see how it does. So that's pretty much it for my main core. Over here in Skirmish, I do have the Death's Creepers, Forest Goblin Spider Riders, which are just always such a good unit. You can see their melee stats are very good with 24, 32, 26. Poison missile attacks are always useful against a multitude of different targets. We also have the Morgub's Magi Marauders back here, which are a must in this matchup as well. AP missiles, very mobile, just a solid pick in my opinion. And guys, last but not least, we have some secret agent stuff going on. So we got the Durkit Squigs in the back, the Night Goblin Swig Hoppers, and these guys, anti-infantry obviously, so they're more meant to, clearing out like, Tomb Guards and the Kepra Guard and Nehekar Warriors and things like that. But in this situation, I wanted to see if I could get some Mission Impossible going on and maybe get into some archers in the back line. And guys, there are some juicy targets. They have a DJ Kotep, and you can see he's going to be on his Roomba, so obviously my opponent memeing a little bit as well. He does have the Grand Hierophant, as well as a Casket of Souls. So he's going to be taking advantage of the map, and it looks like this build he has might be very heavily contoured to this map, because you can see there's some really gnarly chokes, dude. There's some pretty gnarly chokes here, just a little bit of California slang coming out. And this might be a place where he can really funnel me into this hot gates right here and then get massive AoE damage with these. And honestly, a Greenskin Wa it's not going to be good for them to fight on the high ground. Well, obviously it would be better than fighting low to high, but fighting up here is tough because there's not a lot of room and they can just force you into a choke on either point of the map. So I definitely think that this map's going to be a little bit tough for the boys. But without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road and see what happens. So over here, I do have my Skirmisher Cav just pushing into his 3 Ushapti Great Bows. So as far as his comp goes, he's got a couple Ushapti Great Bows, Chosen of the Gods. Very standard competitive stuff. Ushapti Great Bows are incredibly powerful. They can just dumpster Black Orcs, they can take out Trolls, they can kill the Arachnoid Queen. And you can see the Casket of Souls is going to be raining fire from the high ground, doing some pretty good damage. So his group's kind of, he did fan out his archers, probably so he could get some crossfire. So in that moment, I was like, I'm going to get in there, get a free charge with these Forest Goblin Spider Riders, see if I can do some work. And like I said before, the Forest Goblin Spider Riders aren't pushovers as it pertains to their melee stats. So we're able to get in there and do some pretty good work against his Ushapti Great Bow, still taking some heavy casket fire. And as soon as he does commit and jumps on my Forest Goblin Spider Riders with his other Ushapti in melee, I just pull back, and I would say that was a worthwhile trade. Trading about, 15, 20% HP on these guys for, almost 40% on these Ushapti Great Bows. Definitely very solid stuff. Aside from that, he does have skeleton spears in the front line, which is pretty standard for dealing with trolls and Arachnarok queens. 2 tomb scorpions here, I think. Yeah, looks like he has 2 of those. He does also have a tomb prince on a chariot, which is going to be very good against black orcs and orc infantry. But this was great. So I get the Death's Creepers, and I'm able to kind of get some poison on the Chosen of the Gods, put their speed to 42. Then I actually come in with my Orc War Boss and get a couple good AP attacks, and you can see some of those Tomb Guard actually, or not Tomb Guard, what are these things called? The Ushapti Great Bows. Sorry guys, brain's a little bit fried. They actually fall, so we actually kill a couple models there. I think it was actually maybe only 1 model, but we did some good damage. And at this point, I'm going to need to pull back because his Tomb Scorpions just come in there just hot and heavy, and they're going to be able to monster mash my Death's Creepers. But this is good because I was able to pull back his entire force and get them to commit to the front line. And then from the hills comes a great horde of goblins. And you can see the goblins are going to be leaping all over the DJ booth, just kind of, causing a glorious mess of things. But, I was surprised because DJ Kotzep, I was like, he's going to take some work. But very well played by my opponent. He's able to use the Narrow's Incantation of Vengeance to give 44% ward save. And even with that 20 melee defense, that charge did not do a whole lot. I was really just kind of thinking that these Darked Swigs would just melt these guys really quickly, but I guess it's not like Orc Boars, who have the anti-large, so the anti-infantry isn't going to help. You can also see the Usirian's Incantation of Vengeance coming down, but still I would say that's a pretty good little situation that we have going here, pinning these guys and doing some decent HP damage. So in the meantime, a lot of their forces are relatively tattered. You can see the Ushabti Great Bows here are pretty beat up, but they still have most of their models, unfortunately. These ones have 8, these ones have 9. My Orc War Boss flying across the camera is going to be looking for some juicy targets in the back, so maybe being able to get some work since all of his forces are here. So here comes the Orc Chariots. You can see those hogs are coming in to squealing. They're not the pox-ridden boars of the Warriors of Chaos, so maybe they're a little bit more fresh here. So they're going to be jumping in and getting some really solid damage, so check that out. The Orc Boar might be worth it for clearing out Tomb King Chaff. I don't know. It's very a micro-intensive thing, so if your micro isn't, on point and you forget about them, you can lose a ton of value. So in the back, I decided to try and jump in on this Tomb Prince for a second, but when I saw the Tomb, look at that. Were they shooting at the Orc War Boss? They must be. They must be. No, they're shooting at the Black Orc. For a second, I thought they were just taking a point-blank shot. But the Orc War Boss, I'm just kind of circling, trying to threaten the back line to force him to keep some of his resources back here. And you can see he has a lot. He has a Tomb Scorpion. They're not really fighting in the front line, but the Ushapti Great Bows are just tearing into my Black Orcs, which is brutal. But still, the Orc Boar Chariots just doing some cycle charging, and you can see they have 21 kills. I will be pulling them back up the hill in just a moment here. You can see the boars are going to go squealing, and I think I just go into the front line, and man, they seem to have pretty good mass. So here they come into the back, and he's trying to retreat up the hill to force me into a bit of a caddy corner here, just right into this nook. So I do charge in with my chariots, realizing I may lose them, but I want to just keep his forces kind of bunched up here. So my Black Orcs and everyone are going forth. I do pop the Itchy Nuisance to try and keep my opponent from burning down my Orc Boar Chariots. I think it does lower melee attack and weapon damage, so that definitely helps. In the meantime, the Darked Swigs do rally, so they're confident. They're able to kind of scurry back into the forest. They did some okay damage to Kotzeb, but I was a little bit disappointed with their initial performance. But the Black Orcs are just pushing, and again, having to deal with this unfortunate terrain. If this was open field, I feel like I could have gotten a pretty good surround here, but since he had this whole mountainside right here, it was really tough to get a square engagement. So what I do is I land my Orc War Boss because I know he's retreating, trying to force me to fight an uphill battle. So I just get my Orc War Boss, I engage. I'm able to pin some of these skeletons, which is some free value, and you can see they're actually crumbling. They obviously don't have the best leadership. This is a little bit scary because the two Tomb Scorpions and the Ushapti Great Bows are now on the high ground. You can see they're just going to turn and start just wasting my Lord. So this is going to be a lot of damage. Either my Lord or they're going to go after the Black Orcs. And you can see they have a pretty good arc of fire up here on the high ground. So it looks like, yeah, they're actually going after the Black Orcs. So DJ Kotzep continuing to rain fire down on my Black Orcs. I'm at about 55 models in this group. This one's pretty tattered, but if we look at the fight down here, it's actually not bad. The Trolls are charging in, the Black Orcs are smashing those Skelly boys in the front line and having a good old time. And I will be pulling back my Orc War Boss because Greenskins are one of those factions that are very, very dependent on keeping their lords in good health. In the meantime, my own firing line is positioning on the bottom. You can see the Rusty Arrows and this one group here, and then one on the far side is going to be shooting up the hill. And there's not too many good targets. There's a Tomb Scorpion, but it's kind of hidden amongst skeletons. You can see we are going to be pouring some fire. And that's actually a pretty cool discovery to find that the Orc War Boss or the Savage Orc Air Boys do actually have pretty decent AP values of their own. So I do get the Darked Squigs, and I realized I was taking a lot of damage from these Ushapti Great Bows, so I just decided to charge in, and I do the same thing with the Morgubs and Mangy Marauders. Like, I need to just buy my troops on the low ground some time, so I'm going to pin these guys down, keep them from firing, and at that same time, I'm going to jump down with my Orc War Boss and try and actually do some meaningful damage to these elite troops of his in the front line, like the Tomb Prince and the Scorpion. So I'm pushing up the hill with my Black Orcs and some nasty Skulkers, so we're taking a bit of a long road. A good Vortex going down for my opponent, definitely well played there. Just go right into my Black Orcs and does some okay damage. Chariots are at 65 kills, so definitely doing pretty good. Most of those are against Skelly Boys and some relatively low tier troops, and not the biggest thing in the world. But my backline harass has been kind of foiled here. But the Morgub's Mangy Marauders, I'm just continuing to troll, just jumping on and off this casket and, you know, essentially doing the best I can. So the Black Orc's still taking some pretty substantial damage from that, I think that's the DJ. Let's actually see what their kills are. So the Casket has 15 and DJ has 23, so that's pretty good. But the Black Orc should make really quick work of these skeletons, so just trying to work through all of his chaff units and just slowly and just grind my way up this hill. It's just such a tough push getting up here past all these, you know, heavy units like these Tomb Scorpions. So this was a really surprising situation for me. My Orc War boss was fighting one of these Tomb Scorpions, and he got it very low to the point of crumbling. But on that same note, I took massive damage. Like the Tomb Scorpions, I was not expecting this. I always kind of perceived them as more of an anti-infantry unit, but man, they really gooned my my Orc War boss so hard. But I think part of that was also some Ushabti Great Bow fire from the high ground. He was able to do a ton of work. So right now my Orc War boss is going to fall back. The Black Orcs will pile in, and it looks like one of the Tomb Scorpions is most likely going to fall. And he did also summon some of his summoned Ushabti here. Thankfully they will degenerate, but still going to put a lot of pressure on my front line. And down goes the Scorpion. So like I said, Black Orcs just huge performers. A lot of other Greenskin infantry like Savage Orcs or Orc Biggins, who I don't think are immune to psychology, would have just buckled to that type of pressure. But the Black Orcs just push, and look at these guys fighting uphill, just getting attacked from like just all angles, just fighting to almost the bitter end. The Chariots in the high ground are coming in here up to 73 kills, and this is a great situation. So I do get on a Casket of Souls here. You can see finally my Nasty Skulkers, who I was using defensively in the back line, are able to push forward and actually get onto this DJ boost. So they're going to be able to chop this down pretty efficiently. You can see this Casket of Souls is probably crumbling. I most likely should have put all that pressure on top of Katep, but he was a little bit close to all these spears and different units here, so I figured that this would be an easier unit to isolate. So the Goblin Big Boss and the boys doing a pretty good job. My Orc Core Boss actually did die, so the Ushabti Great Bows were able to push him out of the sky. Bounce of Power is still very even though, and as you guys can see, there's still 7 minutes and 40 seconds left in this battle. This is most certainly anyone's game at this point. So the Savage Orc firing line, I'm pretty proud of the boys. They're doing a very good job. I don't know about their accuracy metrics compared to like goblins and stuff, but honestly, they're pouring some pretty healthy fire into these Ushabti, and you can see the Ushabti Great Bows are melting. My opponent's summoned Ushabti are also melting, and he doesn't really have too much chaff left if we look around here. I don't really see too much. So it's mostly the elite troops of the Tomb Kings, and yeah, a very even fight at this point. He still does have the Grand DJ right here, so that's a little bit tough. Probably has some Winds of Magic, and as far as ammunition goes, he still has 5 shots. He's going to be shooting into those retreating arrow boys. It looks like, yeah, these are actually the Resty arrows, which is good. That's my armor sundering unit, so a very valuable target there. So my front line does buckle to that Vortex. Definitely very good work with DJ Kotzep. He's actually up to 79 kills. Right now I'm just kind of, you know, dancing and juking with my Goblin Big Boss, trying to get rear charges on high value targets. You can see the Spider's going to come in, and we'll see. Oh, and he does topple a Construct and just runs right through like a gangster, just pulling back, doing the boys proud. So right now there's a bit of posturing. You can see that my air boys are just shooting at some of these guys on the high ground. The Ushabti Great Bow is taking some pretty substantial damage, but he's able to push down. And the big problem for me is he still has a full health Tomb Scorpion. But this is a very good situation. He did push forward a little bit too aggressively, so my Goblin Big Boss is able to get around. My Nasty Skulkers, who did run it into the forest, were able to rally, thankfully, so they came back out, and they started just prison shanking Katep here. So you can see the Grandpa is just taking out his rage and some of the lads here. And let's see, they're actually confident. So they still have 41 leadership, and they should be winning this fight. I think their combat stats, yeah, 39 melee attacks should be able to get through relatively effectively here. And the Goblin Big Boss coming in. But this is tough because the Tomb Scorpion can easily tear out both of these troops here. And it looks like the curse is going to be going down from Katep once he gets below 50%, which is just going to melt my Nasty Skulkers. So the lads are definitely not ready for that. In the back, you can see the Savage Orc Air Boys are actually fighting in melee, and that's another thing that's great about them. If you do get attacked by some of these heavy hitters, at least with 38 weapon strength, they can hurt them back. It's not going to be like goblins that are just going to rout and squeal right away. So I think we might be onto something with using these guys in this build. I'm not 100% sure, and you know, with their higher armor-piercing values being taken into account compared to the 3 or 4 of the goblins, I think it might be something worth considering. So right here, the Chosen of the Gods are getting dragged down. You can see some Black Orcs do come back. Looks like there's 21 models there. On the other side, it's not so good. The Savage Orc Air Boys did have to fight some skeletons who, like I said, against 8 melee attackers, still going to generate some big value. So, you know, winning situation here up on the high ground. It's a little bit dicier. Katep is actually really low, so he has 451 HP against this Goblin Big Boss. It looks like the Nasty Skulkers are going to be routing off. Bounce of Power is pretty much dead even at this point. I don't think there's any way to determine who's in better shape here. But my Savage Orc Air Boys are going to be shooting at the Skeleton Spears and should be able to crumble those guys. But, you know, the biggest issue is going to be this Tomb Scorpion. And if I run out of ammo and my Big Boss isn't able to kill Katep, I don't think we're going to have any way of taking him down. So right now I'm just trying to go in for these Alpha Strikes. So right there I get a sneaky stab in. I charge in, and he just misses, actually. 2 or 3 attacks in a row. The Goblin Big Boss's melee attack of 66 can't seem to break the melee defense of 20 on Katep. And I think we got 1 attack in there with the 3rd or 4th attack animation. But unfortunately, we needed to land all of those attacks to make him crumble. and the Tomb Scorpion is able to fend off the Goblin Big Boss. So now right now the hero of the Greenskins, the Night Goblin Shaman, is going to be pushing up the hill and just waddling, but at this point I think he decides to fall back to some of the supporting units. So on the low ground, this is also another tough situation. So this Ushabti Great Bow unit has pretty much full ammunition, and I don't have anything that can really catch it, and it outranges me pretty substantially by like 120 range, give or take. So I'm pretty much at his mercy here on the low ground, so I do decide to send some of these Rusty Heirs who do have stock, so at least they can close the distance, and you can see they get a couple volleys off, which was probably worth it, but he can really dictate the pace of the engagement here. I can't really force him to fight, and he can just kite me indefinitely, so that's a little bit tough. So as the Ushabti Great Bows are able to break them, I do get some shots with these guys, which is doing a little bit of work, and the Black Orcs are also pushing in. So I was putting a lot of marbles on the Savage Orc Airboys on the high ground to do some work, and let's actually see what their AP and melee is. So 40 weapon strength with pretty poor armor piercing values. But still, I guess it's better than, just Goblin Archers. So the Night Goblin Shaman, he's trying to put the moves, and you can see that was just like that scene in Transformers where he like jukes the Robo Scorpion in the first movie. The Goblin does get out of the way here, and he's going to be running back to the boys, hoping that maybe we can get some sort of a lucky, bring down on this Tomb Scorpion, but I really don't think it's possible. And as my Goblin does take beatings, you can see the bounce power begins to shift. So let's look down here, and like I said, the Ushabti Great Bows can just kite and fight and just, into oblivion, basically. So they have ample ammunition. So they just shoot me and charge in when I'm a little bit softened up, and they're probably going to be able to get in and finish off those boys. And that is going to be all she wrote for the lads, even though we do get in there. And Kotzeb probably would have died a second or two later, but man, that was a great game. Very fun. Just memes for all. We had Chariots, we had DJ Kotzeb. It was an incredibly close, fun game. But a few discoveries as well from, I think, a competitive analysis as well. I think that the Savage Orc Airboys might be a good choice. A lot of Tomb Kings players will use, and I think had he not brought Kotzeb and brought like Arkin or something, I think we would have seen some carrying to shut down my back line instead of relying on his artillery to do that. And I think the Savage Orc Airboys would just annihilate carrying in a matter of seconds, just like they do against Felbats. So I think that's something that's pretty solid. The Chariot, I would probably honestly cut it and just go with another group of Trolls. I needed, because he brought, aside from his memery with, Kotzeb and the Casket, I think that he brought a pretty competitive build with the Ushabtis and Tomb Scorpions. So I think that we needed more to deal with the Scorpions. Maybe another Troll or the Broken Tusk Mob would have been helpful as well. I just think we didn't have enough stopping power for the big constructs, even though it was very close. So very well played to my opponent, Scribble. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the boys in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.